This is my reaction to the UFC 274 press conference, which just took place. And oh my God, before I get into some of the key moments that happened at that press conference, I need to say this first. They almost got me. They almost tricked me. Okay? They were very close, and I was just about to be tricked. They almost got me, boys, but I stayed strong. I stayed strong within myself. I counted to 10 in my head every now and again during some of the translations and during some of the Portuguese moments on the microphone that I couldn't understand. I counted to 10 in my head. I took some deep breaths and I stayed true to myself. They almost got me, though. I'm still excited for the pay-per-view this weekend. They were close. They were close to ruining all excitement for the card this weekend. They tried their very best. But I stayed true to myself as a UFC fan and MMA fan in general. I'm still excited for the card this weekend. They were close. Oh, they almost had me. They almost tricked me into being bored out of my mind and losing all interest for the fights this weekend. But I'm still excited for it. Just about. I'm losing my mind. But I'm just about excited for the card this weekend. Almost. Too slick for you guys on the press conference. My God, these UFC fighters are interesting. Anyway, they deserve more money because of how much they're promoting the fights. I really miss Marvin Vettori, and I just, and Covington, since his recent attack by Jorge Masvidal, has been a bit radio silent, and I'm missing him as well. And Conor McGregor just don't hit the same anymore. You know? So even when he comes back, it's likely going to be cringy. Maybe Marvin Vettori can be at another press conference. And maybe Covington can come back soon at a press conference and make it kind of interesting. You know? But they were close. They almost got me. They almost made me not want to watch the pay-per-view this weekend. My collar is still itching me beyond belief, and it's so annoying. But they almost got me. I'm okay, though. I'm still excited for the fights this weekend. They were close. They were really close. But let's get into some of the key moments of the press conference that might have been the most boring press conference I've ever watched in my entire life. There were some interesting moments that were quite cool. But other than that, it was just... I'm born for this. God chose me for this. I'm feeling spiritual. Because everyone wants to hear about that Rose Namajunas. You know, it's just really good answers from all of them. They're ready for the fight, in case you guys didn't know. So I thought I'd break down some of those moments in the card. They are ready for the fight, just in case anyone was wondering. They're ready for the fight this weekend, guys. Just, don't worry, they're ready for the fight. Just in case you were thinking they weren't ready for the fight this weekend, they all mentioned how ready they were for the fight. And also, in case you were wondering as well, they all trained really hard. They all trained really hard for this fight as well. And they're all focused on their fight this weekend. So, just in case you guys were thinking that maybe they weren't thinking about the fight this weekend at all, and they were just thinking about, ice cream and fairground rides and some other stuff maybe and stuff like that. But no, they are focused on the fight this weekend. So yeah, just, it was really interesting press conference. They're ready for the fight. They're either chosen by God or born for this. And they're focusing on this weekend. That was, thank God we get the answers finally, because, I didn't know those answers. So I'm glad that those questions were asked. I'm glad also that, we get those answers, because I was worried. I was worried that maybe none of them were ready for the fight. None of them were focused on the fight this weekend, and none of them trained hard in practice. They deserve more money, these fighters. They deserve a lot of money, because they're doing a great job promoting the fights, themselves, not the UFC, of course. Must be the fighters that are bringing in all the money. Either way, press conference notes. Let's go through some of them. The media, just won't stop poking at Oliveira about quitting. I mean, I know they're trying to say that it's because Gaethje said it and some other fighters have said that he's a quitter in the past and stuff like that, but let's be real at this point. The media's trying to get a bit of a reaction out of Charles Oliveira. Like, hey, first question, why are you such a quitter, dude? You know what I mean? Like, they're trying to get a little bit of a rise out of Charles Oliveira, but he said they must not have watched my last few fights, stuff like that. So that was something that happened. Justin Gaethje is backtracking. I know the Weasel just made a video about this recently, but he is backtracking and all over the place in terms of what he thinks of Charles Oliveira. I'll talk about the weigh-ins as well towards the end of this video because they happened at the end as well. The UFC missed a big moment on the not the weigh-ins, the face-offs. I'll talk about that at the end of the video. We'll go through what was said at the press conference. So Justin Gaethje now says that everything he said about Oliveira was based on when he was like 20-something and not based on now, even though even in the build-up to this fight, he said that he still sees a quitter in Charles Oliveira, but now he's at a press conference in the same sphere as Charles Oliveira. He is completely backtracking. He no longer sees a quitter in Charles Oliveira. He sees a great fighter and a great fighter indeed. Other thing, crowd was just like, can we have some kind of crowd etiquette in these press conferences? I'm not wearing this shirt ever again because it's itching me on this side beyond belief, and I'm really annoyed by it. Either way. The crowd kept shouting over answers. Like, we get it. You like Rose Namajunas. She's not going to fuck you. Okay? You haven't groomed her yet. But either way, the crowd were just a bunch of animals. In any case, like we're trying to hear a question. We're trying to hear an answer. We know you can say the person's first name loudly. We all know what their first name is, crowd in Arizona, you absolute fucking mongoloids. We understand. Okay, Tony! Yeah, we know the first name of Tony Ferguson. Thank you for shouting that out above his answer so we can't hear what's going on. That was really helpful, especially during the translations from Portuguese to English. That was really helpful, crowd, you guys yelling out, Rose! You absolute fucking mongoloids. Either way. We move on. One massive crazy moment that went down, which actually was quite funny at the time that I watched it as well, is that Tony Ferguson mentioned, I'm just going to allow it to itch me for the rest of this fucking video. I'm not adjusting my collar anymore. Another cool moment was that Tony Ferguson mentioned that Usman's Imanari rolls suck. That was a highlight of the press conference. That'll reel in the pay-per-views. It was actually quite a funny moment though, so good for Tony Ferguson. He even mentioned, I was expecting Ferguson to go crazy at the press conference, and maybe if Dana White was there, he would have done, but it was John Anik at the press conference instead. But, you know, he said he was going to dial it down and be more focused because he's not in the mood right now to be a fun-loving Tony Ferguson at a press conference because of the situation of his career that he's in. So I understand a little bit, but it wasn't great. And then Rose Namajunas talking about spirituality. Which makes sense for her to be a big believer in the church because, of course, she was groomed as a minor. So I'm sure she's really in touch with the church because that's all they do. Either way, wouldn't be surprised if Pat Barry's a priest, I'll be honest. Either way, let's move on. Rose is also ready for the fight and she's in tune with her God. You know what I mean? She's really become closer to God. You know, we're going to move on from that topic. Thank you for John Anik. There's another note that I wrote down for saying let's focus on the fighters, because why do you care what John Anik thinks about the fighters this weekend? You've got all of the fighters on stage. Ask them questions. Okay, media members? So John Anik, what do you think? Random commentator. And John Anik was like, yes, I have the butterflies in my suitcase this weekend, and let's focus on the fighters on stage. And I was like, oh, thank God, John Anik. You kept it brief. You said, don't ask me any more questions, pretty much. I'm not a fighter. Ask the fighters questions. Thank you, John Anik. Can we have a round of applause real quick for John Anik? And someone give me a thank you, John Anik, in the comments or something along those lines. Because Dana White would have rambled for a long time about something there. What have I wrote here? Fucking retard question askers not letting the translators translate is what I've written down here. They weren't. Like, the person who was asking the question was, like, just asking the next one rather than waiting for the guy to translate it once. But the translator himself, translator, he was really good. He took his time to translate the question and say this is the question and translate it, and this is the answer and translate it. And he was pretty word for word. I don't speak Portuguese, but just the way that he formed the sentences, you can kind of tell that he was really correct about what he was saying. Like in the way that it was said, like 3 words here, 3 words there, 3 words here, 10-word sentence, 3 word, 3 word, 3 word. Like he was pretty accurate. I'm not sure if anyone who speaks Portuguese here could tell me, but I'm pretty sure the translator was on point there. So that was pretty good. Thank you for the translator there. He did a pretty good job. Tony had an orange in his hand at one point. Tony Ferguson. Michael Chandler's not looking ahead at anything interesting. He's just focused on the fight. So, yeah. Oliveira has bulked up muscle for this fight. Is something that I took away from that as well. I didn't know that. I had assumed that he was a little less skinny than usual, but I just thought that would be maybe because he hasn't started cutting weight yet. But no, he has apparently bulked up some muscle. And I noticed that in the beginning of fight week, but now he does look a bit leaner because he's making weight for the fight, of course. But apparently he's put on a little bit of muscle, so probably about a couple of pounds of muscle mass. And I assume that's just because, listen, he knows he's probably going to finish fights anyway or get finished. That's kind of his style of fighting. I doubt he expects fights to go into rounds 4 and 5. So in his opinion, he's probably going to be like, well, if I'm going to only be in a fight for the first 3 rounds, I might as well make sure that my shots and takedowns are going to be the best they can be for these types of moments. So I'm going to be nice and strong so I can pick up Gaethje if I need to, if I can't beat him in the scrambles and stuff like that. So that was a good sign for Oliveira. Maybe it will affect his weight cut and he might be a little bit chinnier. Who knows? That's something to talk about maybe in the comments. Cameraman misses what Ferguson did at the face-off. And I guess that means let's talk about the face-off as well. Oh, and Carla Esparza's ready for a fight, just in case anyone's wondering. But yeah, the cameraman misses what Ferguson did at the face-off because when you're doing a face-off, UFC cameraman, and it's between Michael Chandler and Tony Ferguson, make sure you only put the camera on Michael Chandler. Because that's really smart. And you're a genius. And you deserve a raise. You don't deserve to be executed. You don't. That cameraman deserves a raise. He doesn't deserve to be executed, guys. I know some people might be thinking, execute that cameraman. He doesn't deserve the job that he's in and stuff like this. But no. He deserves a raise. When there's 2 fighters at a face-off, put the camera on one of the fighters and not the other one. Really good job, UFC cameraman. But that was cool. Tony Ferguson apparently ankle-picked Michael Chandler, faked an ankle pick. I assume it was like an Imanari roll fakie or an ankle pick, something along those lines. It's Tony Ferguson. I kind of expected it. But yeah, Tony Ferguson did that, and Chandler laughed at it really loud and made sure everyone saw on cameras that he was laughing at it as well, because Chandler's like, everything he does must be seen by people, all the good stuff he does and stuff like that. But either way, the other face-offs, Rose and Esparza, looked at each other. And then Oliveira Gaethje. I'm pretty confident in Oliveira. I know face-offs don't mean much, but Gaethje shit his pants when Oliveira took his glasses off. Oliveira is the best at stare-downs in UFC history. Every single one he's in, the fighter kind of shits themselves a bit. They really do. I don't know if it's because his face is a bit of a weird shape in general, so it kind of puts him off a little bit. Or maybe he's blind, so he looks a bit weird when he looks at him and goes a bit cross-eyed maybe, but when he had his shades on, Gaethje was, like, pretty confident. And then he took them off and looked Gaethje in the eyes, like, who's going to quit now, bitch? You know what I mean? And Gaethje was like, anyway. Like, I'm not a body language expert. And I know that a lot of people turn into body language experts. But let's just say I'm more confident on my pick of Charles Oliveira after watching that face-off. Because Gaethje looked genuinely intimidated. And Oliveira brings that energy to every face-off that he has. And I love Oliveira's face-offs. He must just have a pretty intimidating stare to other fighters. Because Gaethje genuinely was a little bit taken aback by that stare down from Charles Oliveira. And that's all I have to say about the press conference. Yeah, they tried their best to lower the pay-per-view sales. But it didn't work. I'll still be watching. They tried their best, though. Oliveira gave some good answers. He's always got that Terminator vibe going on. Rose was talking nonsense. Esparza just waffling nothing. Ferguson had a couple of decent moments. Chandler waffling, I'm a good guy sentences because he really needs to prove to everyone how good of a guy he is. Let's not go into that. But either way, like and subscribe. I'm still interested. They almost got me, but I'm still interested. They deserve insurance for what they're doing for the company. Anyway, goodbye. Thank you for watching. Click that button up there. Toodle pip. I'll see you later. Goodbye.